Hello, fun people. I'm Isaac Carlson, and on Following Dreams, I'm focused on exploring the stories of people who are following their passions and achieving their dreams. I want to help inspire you to pursue what you love by hearing how others have done it. Today, I'm speaking with a man who has created one of the most popular and one of my favorite Disney News YouTube channels on the site. In a little over 2 years, he has already been able to amass an audience of over 100,000 fans from his explanations on the news and rumors based around Disney parks around the world. Not only can you find him on his YouTube channel, DSNY Newscast, but also be sure to check out the DSNY Newscast app and website. Welcome, Jack Kendall.
Hello there, everybody. Yes, hi. I should probably say hi there, Waltons, but we're not on a newscast right now, so...
Yeah. Dude, it's been great to be able to talk with you over the last, few months and years that I started watching you and being able to talk to you and everything. So when I started this podcast, I knew that you were likely going to be one of the first people that I wanted to have on.
Well, that's fantastic to be one of the first people on the podcast, to be honest. I mean, I've been following your stuff. I mean, I remember seeing some of your early theory videos and thinking, this guy is doing what the Super Carlin brothers do with the Pixar theory and, try and connect it all together there for the Disney stuff. And that's just like an idea which was so untapped and so, underutilized. And I just thought it was fantastic. I remember watching quite a few of your videos back then, years ago, before I even started a channel.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think you've been doing it maybe a little bit longer than me. I mean, I remember watching you right in 2017, the early days of it. So, yeah.
Wow. Dang. That's really cool.
Yeah.
I didn't know how far back that you had seen my videos. That's really cool.
Yeah, I remember watching the Beauty and the Beast one. I remember watching that one years ago, and how you connected it all together then. And about like Belle's mother, and you also, I mean, I might be mixing all the videos up, to be honest, a little bit, but I also remember your Tarzan and Frozen one, and the connections between the two different things, and the wedding and the parents being died in the shipwreck and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, great content on your channel there, Isaac.
Thank you so much, Jack. Okay, so now let's shift the conversation away from my channel and everything. I want to start talking about you. So I always want to start this conversation off with the same question and wrap it up with the same final question as well. So the first question that I want to ask you is, what are you passionate about? Like, what gets you excited about talking about Disney news? Or is Disney news the real passion, or is it something else? What gets you excited?
Well, we've just had D23 Expo, and I kind of lose it when new things get announced like that. And I really feel like my passion for the Disney parks in general, I mean, I am passionate about the Disney movies and everything like that, but it all started with Walt with me. And I remember I've listened to his biography, like, I don't know, it's a long biography, it's a Neil Gabler one, and it's around 20 hours long, and I've listened to that one probably around 6 or 7 times. I just love diving back into it and listening to it all over again. And it really stems from Walt, because I experienced the Disney parks as a very young child, and then when it got to the point when I was a little older, in my teen years, I saw that Discovery Channel documentary, or I don't know where it aired in America, but it was, I can't remember the name of it, but it was the Wonders of the World or something like that, and it was all about Walt Disney World and how they make it work and all this sort of stuff. And I remember watching that when I was like 12 or 13 years old, and it just fascinated me. And then from that point on, I kind of continued to just stay in touch with what was going on in the parks and stuff like that. But what my passion really stems from is the developments of the Disney parks and how we can make these fantastical worlds reality. And watching these things come to life is magical by itself, and how the Imagineers make it all happen. So I'd say that's probably where my passion comes from, and I'm a big proponent of innovation and technology, and so couple that with Apple and the technology industry, and you basically got what my passion for Disney is, which is wanting to watch all the progress go on and the new developments.
I feel like I remember that documentary you were talking about.
Yeah,
I totally remember seeing stuff like that and them talking about like building Animal Kingdom. That's crazy. And that
I can't remember the oil rig, and you know how it's an upside down oil rig, and the Tree of Life is an upside down oil rig, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I remember seeing all of that, and you know they have the same Yeti thing, but when the Yeti moved, they showcased Expedition Everest. It must have been back in like 05 or 06, because obviously Expedition Everest hadn't opened. And they were like showcasing, you know, the Yeti movements, and this is the largest animatronic we've ever made. And you know, I watched that. I've seen that quite a few times, and you can probably still find it on YouTube. But yeah, I remember that like really initiating my passion for learning the inner workings of Disney. Because when you're young, you just go to Disney and you just see it as, well, it's like nothing else. It's a fantastical world made real, and yeah, it's like virtual reality in many ways, but it's in real life. So,
Yeah, do you take pride in knowing a lot about what's going on and knowing, like, the history of it?
Yeah, I'm not the biggest history guy. Like, I do know stuff of Disney parks, but if you want to be the biggest, I feel like the biggest history people are the people who have managed to live through the most of it.
Yeah.
You know, people whose park history dates back to the 1970s or 80s because they grew up with it. They were encountering it for the first time back then. So the Disney parks are one of those things where to have a great understanding and history of it, you've also got to walk it. You've got to have been there to actually know what you're talking about. If you're talking about history, and you know, I'm only 27, almost 28, so I can't really say I ever walked around a Disney park in the 1980s because I wasn't born in the 1980s. So it's pretty difficult for me from that standpoint. But when it comes to the knowledge aspect of what's currently going on and what we're projected for the future, yeah, I'd say I take great passion and great, you know, I don't know what the word would be really, but it's I don't know, respect for it. I've got a lot of respect for what's about to happen, and I take great pride in it, I'd say.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I definitely feel very excited being able to watch your videos, go to the parks, and then be able to see what's going on and be able to point to that and say, I know it's getting built there. That's always a really exciting thing for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's also a curse because if you ever walk around a Disney park with me, it doesn't turn off. Like I'm constantly walking around going, hey, look at that. That's new development changing there, and oh my God, you know, it's that kind of you can't turn it off as easily. And I'm always armchair imagineering. Which annoys my girlfriend to no end when we're walking around a park together, and and it annoys anybody. I mean, my brother got annoyed with it as well when we go around Disneyland Paris or something like that. And I walk around going, "Wouldn't it be amazing if they did this here?" You know, and it's like, Jack, you're not an Imagineer. You know, my family say it to me as well. You're not an Imagineer, Jack. Just turn it down a little bit.
Is that something that you'd be ever interested in doing? Like, would you want to be someone working in like a big Disney team developing ideas for rides and attractions and immersion?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I've got a lot of ideas for what to do, but and I think a lot of my proposals and ideas and little improvements and enhancements are realistic and within a budget. But my problem would be that working within a big company, I mean, you think that Walt Disney Company is big, but obviously Walt Disney Imagineering is pretty big as well. And the problem with such a large organisation like that is you've got to know not to step out of your area. And I'm more of a big picture kind of like, you know, here's like Walt used to, you know, big picture, this is where we're aiming, this is the vision we're going towards. I wouldn't be very good with just staying within my lane, if that makes sense. And that's probably the reason why being a YouTuber and being, you know, self-employed from it works for me. But it also means that I would love to create a ride, but the patience that these Imagineers must have to watch a project from, like Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, you know, it began in 2014 in early development, announced in 2015, 2016, 2017, we saw the model, you know, construction started in 2016, and it's a long 5-year process, and that is a you got to have a lot of patience for that, and I think I'd be feeling like I want to push for a lot faster. Than you possibly could.
Because you like the being able to control the day-to-day and the big picture of what's going on.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not what takes place when you're dealing with $1 billion project.
Well, I mean, you know as well as me, Isaac, like being a YouTuber and being self-employed, there's a lot of I'd say it's a happy kind of stress because you're talking about something that you love. But you also have that kind of stress that you've got to deliver for the fans, for the viewers who are watching. You know, because you're whether you think you are or not, essentially people come to rely on you, and you are much like I have YouTubers who I rely on for content and stuff like that. And it's so easy to just think from your own mindset that, oh, I'll skip a week. But you know what? The content that we create, to people, it's their entertainment, and you may just think, oh, it's just an entertainment aspect, but it's a part of their life. It keeps them connected to the magic. It keeps them connected to the parks they love, or the movies that they love, or anything like that. And so, you know, it's a happy kind of stress, but the stress is still there, and I'd prefer that over stress of working within an Imagineering role, because what they do to make these things a reality, it's very, very difficult, and and you've also got to be very good at secrecy as well. Which if you know me on my DSNY Newscast, I kind of try and pull back the curtain a little bit, but I when I dive into rumours and stuff like that, I like to make sure I state it as this is a rumour. The probability, whether it's likely to happen or not. And I also try and, just balance it up with, hey guys, this is all we know right now, basically. Not trying to act like we know everything. We're following along with the things as they change, because a lot of times, a lot of projects will just go, basically. They'll just be taken off the table within Imagineering. And it's important that as a news channel, you follow up on that sort of stuff, and you make sure you do a video. And it's not always the most fun video, doing a video to your viewers and saying to them, hey guys, that thing that we're really excited for, it's now not happening. But that's news. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really good that you make sure that you keep transparency with your fans, that you are able to be there for them on a consistent basis and to build that amount of trust. I think it's really cool that you do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's the YouTuber idea in general, isn't it? Like, we'll probably get into more of the YouTube stuff, but just not to go off into too much of a tangent, but like, I feel like a lot of people don't have that transparency, and I think it's more about direct communication with your viewers and fans and people who support you. I just feel like if they're willing to invest the time to watch you, then you should be more than anything, you should be willing to be open with communication towards them, keeping them in on the loop, not disappearing and not doing a video for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and just disappearing out into thin air like a lot of YouTubers do until they're ready to come back with their next bit of content. I feel bad when I do that. I legitimately agonize over, I'm going to take, this Tuesday off because of blah, blah, blah. And it's, to me, I'm like, I've got to at least let people know. And a lot of YouTubers don't do that. And I feel like the trust there, if you were to go to a shop and they didn't have a sign up saying, we're closing tomorrow, blah, 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 then that would be an issue, because, you come to rely upon something. And I just feel like you owe it to them to be transparent with your schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. The community tab is a great place for that. When I went to D23, that was something that once I ran out of time to be able to finish all the videos that I had planned, I wanted to make sure that I put out there that this is where I'm at, this is what I'm doing, I'm going to be back soon.
Do you think that the community tab is as good as what they could make it on YouTube? Because it leaves a lot to be desired, and I just feel like it's very fragmented between Twitter and Instagram and the community tab, and it's just like they're all trying to copy each other, and I don't know. It's mixed, isn't it?
I think it's a cool thing that you're able to communicate directly with the people that communicate with you solely on YouTube, because, you know, most people don't convert to your other platforms as well. But yeah, I wish I had a stronger base outside of YouTube that I could communicate with people with. But so when there's those big things, I try to do that on the community tab. And I also like it for like polls and things like that to try to figure out what people want. Mm-hmm.
No, I see what you mean with people not necessarily transferring on over to the social media thing, which is annoying in many ways, because the audience that you have on YouTube, like, I don't know what your YouTuber subscriber versus non-subscriber ratio is, but mine, surprisingly, even with 120 odd thousand, you know, I'm still, you know, the people who view, it's only it's 50-50 to those who are subscribed. So realistically, that subscriber count could be a lot more if they made it easier to become a subscriber. But I just feel like there's a lot of barriers to, you know, making it a better, more direct communication method. I feel like what they're doing with Teespring and stuff like that, the merch shelf, that would be really useful if they had a social media shelf underneath the YouTube videos. You know, where, hey guys, this is a direct, or just give us the option to put a follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram underneath the YouTube video. I mean, YouTube in general, this is way off base now, but YouTube in general, sorry, we're meant to be talking about following your dream and stuff like that, but YouTube in general, they don't have Google Plus anymore, they don't have their own social media thing, so why not push that? I just feel like a lot of viewers would probably find that useful.
Yeah, I think that would be useful for creators and the people who are looking to follow them, because there's not a super easy way to do that. I've been trying to put that more at the top of my descriptions and doing things like that, but yeah, that's something I've been trying to mess around with. But this kind of transitions well into another point that I want to talk to you about. So this is a perfect example of how you're one who's constantly thinking and trying to develop your own ideas in whatever place you're at, whether it be the Disney parks or how YouTube could evolve. And that was something I found interesting when I was researching you. Like, I went on your LinkedIn and stuff like that.
You researched me.
Yeah. And found out, like, you went to school for, like, advertising and business, and you've worked in, like, marketing for brands like Pandora and Costco, and you did digital strategy development and increasing audience engagement through new media platforms. So this is something you've been working with for some time. What led you to go into DSNY Newscast, and how did this, like, background, how did you get into it, and how did you move out of it? Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, I see what you mean. So okay, let's go back, shall we?
Oh yeah.
So essentially, I didn't work for Pandora and Costco. They were my clients when I worked at I worked in the advertising department at a newspaper, and so I worked with them on their advertising copy and, you know, different strategy like that. But it stems back to, I went to university for advertising and business, and basically we don't have what we call a major in the UK for our final year, or what we're majoring in, but we have something called a dissertation, and my dissertation was on branding, because I love working on brands and, you know, how to build a better brand and things like that. And I basically I did as many as my case studies on Disney and Apple as possible. And my main project was basically the dissertation, you know, it's like a 50 or 60 page A4 booklet. You know, you have to do I can't remember how many thousand words it was, but it was many thousands of words. And I researched basically the brand face, is what I called it, and whether that has a stronger link to a brand and whether it makes people think differently about it. So Walt Disney and Disney, Steve Jobs and Apple, Elon Musk and Tesla and SpaceX, and whether the value of having that brand face means anything more. And then, so I took that, I came out of university, I went and had a job at a market research company, and where I was going to be working with Coca-Cola and big brands like that, Pepsi, wow, things like that. Mm-hmm. And I quit on day 3. I quit on day 4. I had a graduate scheme job and I quit on day 4, mm-hmm, technically. I did 3 days there and I quit because it wasn't what it promised it was going to be. And it was more market research. And market research, they promised me that I was going to be doing a lot of client-based presenting and talking to the clients. And it turned out to be more like 2% that and 98% looking at spreadsheets, and I'm not the kind of guy who's very good with spreadsheets. Mm-hmm. Some people are, I'm just not. And my mind just doesn't work that way. I'm not that way inclined. And so I quit that. I went and started my own company with very little funds that I had. Mm-hmm. And I tried this thing called a footle, which was a whole different thing altogether, but it was basically an invention for the bottom of a door, so therefore when you're in a hospital you don't have to touch the door handles, so therefore lack of spread of superbug and germs within hospitals and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And that didn't work out very well, and I transitioned into creating apps, because that's where it's technology and it's thing which I love, and I know graphic design. So I created this thing called the Beehive, and that idea I'm sorry it's so long. Anyway, so basically that idea went to there, and I created this thing called Beehive, and it was basically take your 5 or 6 best friends on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, bring them all together, only get the updates from them. There was a widget within iOS 7 at the time when that was first launched, iOS 8, and it made it really easy for you to just stay up to date with your friends. Mm-hmm. Because at the time, algorithms weren't really a big thing on Twitter and Instagram. But no, the timeline alone was, it was just a stream of news and consciousness, basically. And this was one way to filter it all down. So I called it a social network filter. That didn't pick up the way I wanted to pick up. It had like 7,000 downloads, but it just had issues, and it was just my first learning curve with apps. Mm-hmm. But during that period, I actually created an app because my brother and me were talking back and forth, and I was just like, I'm so bogged down with this Beehive app, and I'm really, sweating it day after day, trying to work on the development of it and everything like that, ironing out all the bugs. He was like, Jack, you just need to do something that you find fun. This was fun to begin with, but now it's become too much of a chore. You got to do something that you find fun. And so he challenged me, and he said, I'll give you 3 weeks, create an app which delivers, and delivers on something. And I said, well, the Disney news is something which I'm really, interested in. Mm-hmm. And there's just not a way to actually find out all your Disney news in one easy way. And I was like, I'll create an app. And it was just basically an RSS reader with all of the different official Disney channels, Disney, news channels in it. Mm. And it got rejected by the App Store and stuff like that. Anyway, so therefore, at the end of this long thing in 2014, the Beehive failed, DSNY Digest, the first run of it, had failed. My solo self-employment venture failed. I've run out of money to do work on that, the little funds I had. And so I took a job at a newspaper. And I made friends there, and it was good, but it wasn't really what I was passionate about. But I very quickly became good friends with my boss, and I spoke to her, and I said, after a very short period of time, I was like, I need to change this to accommodate my passion here, which is pursuing self-employment with Disney in some way and working on a new project. And she was very facilitating of it all, and she went along with it, and she said, Jack, completely understand, we'd rather keep you around rather than lose you over, different hours. So I scaled back my hours a little bit, and it afforded me to work on a proposal, which I sent to Disney in 2016. Mm-hmm. And It actually sits to the side of me in every single newscast. It's on my right-hand side.
Yes.
And the reason why it sits on that table is because, in my opinion, it's kind of what led to everything, the genesis of all of this. And so, to anybody who asks what's that official document that you have to the side of you, it's actually a presentation I sent to Disney and was rejected by Disney. And the proposal was for a new digital communication strategy based upon DSNY Digest. And so, the actual proposal itself is called the Proposal of New Digital Communication Strategy based upon a product called DSNY Digest. For evaluating the prospect of developing the Disney Universe social platform. And it was going to be I laid out this huge presentation, research all about their current social media communications. I offered up my app as a solution, because obviously at that point, the app in 2015, I relaunched it in 2015, managed it in the App Store, and it got like 8,000 downloads, and it had a steady steady base on it. And all the feeds used to go into it, and it was called DSNY Digest, and I used to update it every single day, and I updated it on Christmas Day, on New Year's Day, every single day I would be updating it, and it had glowing reviews, and sent it off to Disney, and Disney were like, we can't accept unsolicited presentations, so it was a thanks but no thanks sort of situation, and then I took it, and so therefore, end of 2016, I was faced with another failure. And I was just sat there thinking, well, I've spent a year of my life working on this thing, and it's failed again, and Disney don't want me. And, I should have just applied for a job at Disney, but I was trying to do it my own way. An unconventional way, as you'll probably find with me. And then, so, yeah, I took that, and I, speaking to my brother again, and I said to him, what should I do now? And he's like, well, Jack, you don't need to necessarily, work for Disney. Why don't you show them? I love watching YouTube at the end of the night. Why don't you just start doing on YouTube? Use you. And I was like, that's an idea to that. And so therefore I started working on the idea for DSNY Newscast, and that was early 2017. And I was like, well, yeah, there really isn't a market at the moment. There really isn't anyone within the market who does it the way which I envision doing it, which is going into depth twice a week, short form videos, bite-sized information, and delivering the news. And so I gave it 3 weeks. And I said to myself, if it's not picking up after 3 weeks, if I'm still at like 200 views after 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, something's not working. I haven't connected. So...
Wow.
And 3 weeks in, I was, I had my first, I know. But don't forget, my mindset at the time was, I'd just come off 4 failures in a row. And I was like, I can't waste another year of my life into something. I'm now, at that point I was 24, almost 25. Was I? No, I was 25. And I was along the lines of, I can't waste any more of my life, chasing something which I'm not seeing a return, as in gaining traction and seeing some sort of a success from. So I gave myself that 3-week period, and within those 3 weeks I threw everything which I had at it, and I had worked on the graphics. I originally had the idea I was going to do a video every day, and
wow.
that soon changed. You can imagine editing a video every single day, writing a script and editing one every day. It was, along with a job at the same time, it was very, very difficult. And my set changed very quickly. I made a trip out to IKEA and and changed up the set, because initially when I started off doing my videos, I was stood up and against just a plain wall with a couple of photos behind me. And the setup I had was like, I think it's newer studio lights, and they were like £50. And it was, I still film every single one of my newscast videos on my iPhone, because that's an amazing camera. And the biggest investment was probably the microphone. So yeah, it was quite a journey to get to that point. But yeah, sorry for going on a tangent there for an 8-minute tangent.
Oh no, that's completely fine. Man, that's incredible. Like I think you've told me the story of like writing the proposal and everything like that, but I didn't realize how many failures there had been before the failure of, as you're describing. I don't think it's like a failure to be.
No, I see it as a failure. I see it as a failure.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't pan out the way you wanted to. So in that way, it did not work. But I didn't realize how many things hadn't went your way to lead you down the path that you had to eventually get to. And that's incredible that you like continue to persevere through all of that. And especially setting that deadline of 3 weeks. That's just what I completely get it.
Yeah. The deadline was like, I don't know, it was like 3 or 4 weeks. It was basically if it's not picking up within a month, because the thing which I would say was my saving grace was the fact that I have the DSNY Digest app. And so unconventionally, when you start off a YouTube channel, you start off with 0 and you build from there. And I started off with 200 subscribers, which was a godsend. It was fantastic. I mean, I don't know if it was 200, but it was close to that, which guaranteed me at least 200 views, hopefully, on the first video, no matter what. And so I knew I had a base to start with, because I had announced in my app, I'm going to be starting this new thing called DSNY Newscast, and it was going to be a new venture. And I probably had around 800 people viewing the app every single day at that point. And 200 people made that journey with me, and probably a lot more of those people made the journey with me. But initially on that first video, 200 people made that journey, and it was I got 230 views on the first video, and then the second one got like 300, and the third one got like 400, and then I had a breakthrough, and it was like a week in, I got a week or two in, I got 1,000 views on a video, and I was like, whoa. And then the next big one was 3,000 views on a video, and that was Pandora.
Sure.
And then at the end of April, I did a video on Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout, and that got 29,000 views. And then I was like, okay, I've got something here. And the thing is, I was very conscious of the fact that you only get one chance, really, to make a first impression. Now, that saying is true when it comes to YouTube, but it's also kind of misleading. Like, you do get a second chance to make a first impression, but you've got to change up your brand, you've got to change up your image, you've got to change up your name, you've got to change up everything if you want to make a second first impression. Because once people have identified that logo, that name, that YouTube channel with something, and they've given you a chance, it's going to be a while until they come back and click on your video again to give you a second chance, if they didn't like the content the first time. And so I knew very quickly I had to get my act together, and I think within 5 or 6 videos I was sat on a couch, I was talking directly to the camera in this way I still do now, and I worked it out very quickly that I needed to get my act together with it.
I started watching your channel like a few months in to you starting it, and it was incredible how quickly you ramped up the quality, and like especially with the graphics, the intro, everything seemed so polished, because by the time I hopped in and discovered your channel, like I didn't even know that you were recording in front of a wall until like I went back and you started
you saw the first video.
yeah, and started like looking back. But yeah, you were able to really refine the craft very quickly, and that was something that's super impressive. Was that something that you had any background with from your like previous positions, or was this something that you were able to like learn about in the process?
So yeah, to say I didn't have a background with it is, I mean, I didn't have any background with YouTube, except for posting like funny little Christmas Eve videos for my family and things like that. That was the main bulk of what my use of YouTube was as a viewer. So I knew what I wanted to see, and I knew what I didn't want to see, and I knew what I didn't want to be, or wanted to be, or didn't want to be. So I had that very fixed in my mind from the beginning. But I had the graphic design aspect, because obviously when I designed all those apps and presentations and marketing and branding and stuff like that, that's basically what I am very, very good at. I taught myself Photoshop at the age of like 13 or 14, and I perfected it since then, and working on app graphics and everything like that.
Brilliant.
And so yeah, no, I had that aspect, and then like I dabbled in Adobe Premiere. No, not Adobe Premiere, Adobe After Effects to try and create the graphics, for the videos. And I still use some of the graphics today. But they are very difficult to create. But my brother works for a TV channel, like a smaller TV shopping channel, and he could help me with like teaching me the basics of After Effects. But he didn't do the graphics for me. This is my other brother, the one who ran Universal Newscast. So, because I've got two brothers, just to make it clear. One brother is one who spoke to me about, like, trying to help me, guide me with all of the Disney presentation stuff. And Will from Universal Newscast, he's one who works at a TV channel, and he and me would talk about Disney as well. But he would help me teach me After Effects. So I learned some After Effects ability from that. But I created all the graphics, and I knew that I spent around 2 or 3 weeks before creating the graphics, designing the logo, choosing the name, and thought went into every single aspect of this. And I also did a couple of test runs with my brothers in the room, and they were like, "Jack, don't say it like this, don't say it like that," And then I had a date locked in. I said, "Guys, video is going to be live on April the 13th. Unlucky for some, lucky for me." And so I just, at April the 13th day, I just came home from work that day. I was like, I need to get this video out. And I got the video out. And it did okay. But yeah.
Wow. You sound so tactical with like every move that you do. This is just like so impressive and so interesting to listen about.
Well, it is. Well, it is. I mean, YouTube yes, it is passion, and it is about following your dreams and stuff like that, but Walt didn't just, people like to say, oh, there's that whole thing in California Venture, a suitcase and a dream, just a suitcase and a dream, and he was very tactical about it, though. He had the Alice comedies. He had the Kansas City ad company, the Alice comedies. He had Oswald. He had Mickey. It was very tactical in the way he went about doing it, and it was a business. And I feel like a lot of people don't treat YouTube. They treat it too much as a passion project, and not enough as, hey, it's a business that I need to also fulfill a promise that, if the viewers are going to watch me, I need to fulfill my promise to them. And as a business, you have to fulfill that promise. And if you look at it that way, then it makes it a lot easier. Because there's a whole business to YouTube. There's a whole inner workings that you and me, Isaac, have spoken about YouTube before. But yeah. Yeah,
because that's all things that I would have done if I started today. But, because when I started, I was still in like junior high. So that it's just so interesting listening to someone who had foresight going into what they wanted out of the platform. And so I just think that's like really cool. And I
probably benefited from the fact that I was a little bit older. If I had started when I was 18, but then again, when I was 18, I think the defining difference is before and after university, and your mindset before university. I mean, you can try to set up a business before university, but I think university is a big learning curve for me.
Sure.
Because you go from school to university and you realise very quickly, everyone tells you you're going to be at the moment you're a big fish in a small pond, they keep reiterating that to you. And I realised when I went to university that you can actually be a big fish in a big pond. And you can be a shark. Yes, you're not the biggest, but you can still make an impact. And that's how I saw it. And YouTube is massive. Disney on YouTube is a very, very small sliver of what YouTube's overall viewership is. Tiny percentage. But you can still make a big impact in people's lives, and that shouldn't be taken lightly. And I don't know.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And you definitely went into something that wasn't being explored? Because there's a lot of people making Disney content online, especially on YouTube. But yeah, you definitely went in a different direction and presented it in the short form content that you described, because there's a lot of people that go into extreme depth and have been doing that for years. But yeah, you went in a completely different direction and leveraged what was popular of, more consumable ways of seeing the news. When you were going through this, so was it when you got those big views on the Guardians of the Galaxy video, was that the moment you finally realized that your passion of discussing Disney news could be your career, or was there another defining moment?
Well, all along, I'd say for the first 2 or 3 months, I was still thinking to myself, hey, I'm getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And one of these days, I'm going to get an email from Disney. One of these days, I'm going to get an email from Disney. And I just kept thinking, because it was all about that presentation booklet. And I was like, this will get them to notice me. This will have to get them to be like, this guy's got something together here. We need this guy working for us. And so the actual goal initially was to be create this thing. I was loving doing what I was doing, but it was also to work for Disney and do it for Disney. Because what better than DSNY Newscast than Disney Newscast and being the face of Disney? Because that's kind of what my mission was going to be.
Sure.
To be the representative that talks to the camera for Disney. Obviously, Disney didn't like my face. I found very, very early on that, probably around a month or two in, I was like, well, you know what, this is, this could be something that I can just do. I don't need necessarily to have Disney, work for Disney to do this. So I worked out very quickly that this is a viable thing for me to turn into a career.
Sure. Wow.
But, don't forget, I was still working for a company at the same time as that was going on. So I went self-employed 6 months in. Into the YouTube game, which is very, very early to do that. And I know how early that is. And I actually went self-employed right at the wrong time. It was around the same time as the Logan Paul Japan forest thing went on YouTube, and ad revenue dropped, and the little amount of money I was making per video from the AdSense plummeted. And I remember, getting together with other YouTube Disney YouTuber people. I think that's how we probably first started talking, actually, Isaac. But it was, I remember thinking to myself then that this ad apocalypse might be the end of it all. And thank God that my Patreon subscriber base came through for me, because if it wasn't for that, then I don't know if DSNY Newscast would have carried on, because I'd have had to go and get another job. I'd have had a gap in my CV and my resume. I would have had to devote a lot of time towards the new job. I don't know if I'd have been able to keep up DSNY Newscast. Because that's the important thing. A lot of people say having passion for something is what drives you forward, but it's more so, it's passion coupled with follow through and commitment and availability. And there's just some people out there who just don't have the availability to follow their passion, and that's a sad thing, which I don't have the answer to, but that is a very difficult thing, and I feel for them. But starting off small and doing whatever you can is always, in my opinion, the correct direction to go with it.
Yeah, you were able to go in with it, explore it, but still have some solid ground before you take the next leap that people need to do if that's something that they care about. If they want to go pursue their passion, they have to figure out a way to do it. And, for some people, that's definitely easier than others. But I'm glad that Patreon was able to come through for you and help you out of that, because that's something that, is definitely something I worry about as well, is that there could be a switch or just one email one day that will creep up and say that we no longer can monetize your content, and that just can be crushing. But that's kind of the chaotic part of YouTube that's not often realized.
that's what I've spoken to you about. And it's, coming back to this idea, your theme of podcast of following your dreams. To follow your dreams, you also need to have a diversified income. If you're going to be self-employed, you need that diversity of income. Especially with something like YouTube, you need the AdSense off YouTube. You need to have somewhat of a merchandise game, which I don't actually have much of a merchandise game whatsoever. Patreon, my Patreon backers, I'm always eternally grateful for their support. And then outside sponsorships, because that's another part of YouTube, which is a key aspect. But diversifying income is a big deal for to keep something afloat, especially with a self-employed aspect on YouTube. But yeah, are there any questions? So I didn't really stick to. I should have really had a look at some questions beforehand so we could stay to the narrative or the script. Sorry, I just get off on. I go off on one tangent with this whole YouTube stuff, and it's so interesting to me to talk about it. But
no, that's absolutely fine. Like the main idea was just to get your 2 cents on what your journey was like, and oftentimes you would go over questions that I was going to ask. Like one of the things I wanted to ask was there a time where you didn't think you were going to be able to keep going and you just were able to answer that? So I think it's great to just like let you go, explore what you want to talk about. And whenever I want to wrestle you back in, I can. Your journey's fascinating, and but I want to continue. Like, what are you most proud of throughout this journey?
The thing which I'm most proud of is the Waltoneer community, and it's the way that your videos and a video, as simple as it can be, can touch people. I mean, I've had emails off and messages from people who, in real tough points in their lives, and I message back and speak to them, and how I remember being around 2 or 3 months in, I made a real big impact in someone's life, and that just changed my whole viewpoint of this whole thing. It was like, oh, this isn't just about Jack's passion and oh, look how well DSNY Newscast is, and it was more about, oh, I really have an impact here to these people who watch, and the Waltoneer community and how positive it is, and how it gets, because some of them are younger, some of them are older, but it gets everybody's juices flowing in terms of creativity and their passion about the parks and Disney movies, and gets them thinking and discussing their passion and their fandom for it. And that's also kind of part of what the project was about. It was about the Disney universe, which I described as a social media platform where fans of Disney, Pixar, Marvel and Lucasfilm and the Disney parks could all come together and just share in that fandom together, joint watch parties for videos. It would be more personalised when you go to a Disney park. It'd be all that kind of stuff, and it was about distilling down what the fandom experience is and delivering on it even better. So what I'd say I've been most proud of from this whole experience is the community, and it's the way that the videos have been able to touch people and the impact they've had. I mean, 100,000 subscribers sounds great, and I'm happy with it, but at the end of the day, I could have 0 subscribers and have 100,000 views per video, and I'd be much happier from that because I'm still making the impact. A subscriber, I feel like subscriber is something that's good because obviously from the viewer point of view, they get your content on a regular basis. From your point of view, you can guarantee your content goes to them on a regular basis. But when we actually look at it from my perspective, it really is just an accolade. It's like, oh, look how many people I've got watching me. Well, there's a lot of channels out there that have millions of subscribers and only have a fraction of those subscribers watching them, which to me says that your audience isn't engaged. And what I love about my channel, more than anything, is the engagement on my channel. The fact that I'll post a video and within an hour it will have 4,000 or 5,000 views. And that means, to me, number one, people really care about the content that I've just spent all day creating. And number two, it's an engaged community. It's one that is still enjoying the content. And that, to me, means more than anything.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're able to build this connection. And I think that's something that needs to be focused in on, is that you are communicating to literally thousands of people. And sometimes that there's a disconnect, for me at least, that like you don't fully realize that you're touching so many individual people's lives. And that's so cool that we're in a position that we are able to do that. And I think that in the position of being people with followings that have a focus on Disney, I hope that we can, tie the different communities together in some way and be able to bind us all together. Because that's something that I also kind of envisioned for this podcast, is that it's going to be one place where lots of different Disney fans can all have a discussion over time. Because, there's the LA YouTubers, the Walt Disney World YouTubers, the movie YouTubers, but there's not a lot of overlap.
Yeah. It's such a massive, Marvel YouTube,
Yeah.
Marvel, Lucasfilm, there's just so much within the Disney family now. And it's exciting for me. When the whole Fox acquisition was first rumored back in October 2017, I started covering it. I was like, whoa, my world's about to get a lot bigger. Just not because, I'm particularly excited by the Fox IP, because I'm not massively into the ones I like most, like Sound of Music and Planet of the Apes. Avatar's great, but, it's not like an Avatar. Avatar's not like Star Wars or Marvel. But, from my perspective, it was, Disney's about to become a big player in media streaming. And with Disney Plus, and we're about to see that. And with the launch of Disney Plus right around the corner, you've seen the plethora of content that they're bringing to the exclusive content, like the Marvel TV shows, The Mandalorian, the Ewan McGregor, Obi-Wan Kenobi show, the Pixar shorts, Pixar content, Forecast Question. All this stuff is all coming to Disney Plus. And that means that yours, mine, everybody's Disney content and worlds become much larger. And I think the ramifications of Disney Plus, we have not even begun to really tap what this is going to do for the Walt Disney Company. I've likened it on DSNY Newscast in the past to when Roy Disney decided to open or start Buena Vista distribution, because that gave the Disney company control over how they distribute their movies. And in many ways, that's what Disney Plus is doing for Disney, but it does so much more. Yeah,
it's a completely new wave of empowering them and controlling their content again. That because it's so much better than having your own TV channel. It's so much more powerful because it can be reached by so many more people. I'm very excited for it.
I just think that people haven't really thought about, this is going to be in every Disney hotel room.
Yeah.
Maybe not straight away, but eventually it will be. So every Disney hotel room is going to have this. And I can guarantee you that each one will probably have some sort of either easy sign-on or sign-up service. So you can do it within minutes or a minute.
Like scan your Magic Band.
Scan your Magic Band. They've already got your credit card details.
Yeah.
And they've got your name and everything else. So they've got all that sorted for you. And maybe there'll be a free trial whilst you're on your Disney World vacation. And guess what? The kids will go home and want to watch that content and continue watching the content. And if they keep the price the correct right amount, it's big. This is going to be big. And the amount of content and the type of content we're going to see coming to Disney Plus, well, I think it's going to keep you very busy, Isaac. And it's going to keep... you've got so much to tap into, and I'm going to start covering more newsy aspects of Disney Plus as well, because I've seen my audience respond to it. And I feel that the streaming market and everyone, the pop culture YouTubers and stuff like that who follow Game of Thrones and the Marvel movies and stuff like that, we're also quite well equipped to talk about this stuff as well. Now it's coming into the Disney sphere. So, we'll be talking about that quite a bit on DSNY Newscast.
Disney Plus is just so dense and so diverse, and it feels like there's constantly news and more updates coming out about it. And so, I completely understand that this is something that it's going to take people the time to realize and fully get their head around just how much is going to be released if you care about the franchises that Disney owns. Like if you don't have an interest in anything they own, this won't be for you. But for the people that want to double down into it and experience it on a consistent basis, it's crazy not to. Like, especially if you're in the MCU, Star Wars or Pixar.
Yeah. No,
for example.
And I like, it's going to be a year or two away before. I mean, it's next year we're going to see the first Marvel show come on board, and we've got Mandalorian right from the get-go. And it's just, it's going to be interesting to expand these universes on out beyond the cinematic universes, and keep that level of storytelling the same that we expect from Disney. But, you know, how that's going to affect the parks. Could the Mandalorian be seen in Batuu? Could we see a thread between the Marvel TV shows and maybe the new Avengers campus, which is being built up? You know, so this is synergistic in so many different ways, and you know, it's really exciting time for Disney fans in the next 5 years.
Absolutely. So, other than continuing to talk about Disney Plus more in the future, where do you see yourself going? With DSNY Newscast, what would be your ideal vision for yourself in the future?
Well, I've always I've got this opinion of DSNY Newscast, and I would love to keep it. Number one, I don't ever want it to really, you know, I've built it to such a stage that I don't really want to ever see it die or just stop existing at one point. But you know, we'll cross that bridge when I come to it. But I don't know if I'll want to continue doing it much into my 30s. I mean, I'm only about to turn 28. You know, I don't know if I'd want to continue, despite always having that passion for talking about Disney. I also am a human being, and I would also want to maybe try and see what else I can do in my lifetime. I don't want to be the thing that I did when I was 25 defines the rest of my life. So I don't know whether I would continue doing it much into my 30s. I mean, I can see maybe a 3 or 4 year period for this thing, but I don't know how much further beyond that. We don't even know what the streaming or social media landscape will look like by then. Yeah. You know, will YouTube be the same way it is now? What will it look like in 3 years' time, 3 or 4 years' time? So we have to be fairly fluid on that. But when I look at DSNY Newscast, what I would love for it to become is, I would love to do this officially for Disney. I would love to, you know, open this up so therefore it becomes more official, and this makes Disney think about maybe hiring me. That would be fantastic if Disney ever wanted to do that, and I'd work for Disney doing this. That was the end goal of this whole thing. But then again, why do it themselves when they know that I'll do it for them for no money from their aspect, where they don't have to pay me anything, and I do it in a fairly good manner for them. You know, I cover it in a fairly comprehensive way. So, you know, that's all pretty easy to forecast. But yeah, now I've got past the 100,000 mark. That was the thing where you get the silver plaque, and you know, I don't think the DSNY Newscast is going to get to 1 million, if I'm being honest. And that's not my goal. My goal isn't to just try and get to 1 million. It's to get past the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney World. I might continue it going on to the 100th anniversary of Walt Disney Company, and then I'll assess my situation then.
All right. That was not the answer that I was expecting. But
what were you expecting? Go on. Give me the answer what you were expecting.
Well, I mean, maybe you were like hoping that you'd be able to build up a team, or like, I mean, this is typically like the YouTuber dream, is that then they have like, they grow whatever they have to as large as they want. But honestly, that's not something that I necessarily see myself wanting to do, but that's just, you just seem like a very ambitious person that cares a lot about this. So that's just what, I was thinking.
Well, you make a good point, because like, that's what I meant when I said I don't want to see it die. I don't want to just walk away from it. Preferably, I would like to build up I forgot to mention that part of it, because in my mind it's just like, that's more inner stuff which I don't know how I'm going to make it work eventually, but I would love to build up a team, and I would love to hand this on over to have somebody else present DSNY Newscast in the future and do it that way and keep this thing going like that. But from my perspective in this world, I feel like I could maybe make another impact in something else. And I've set up DSNY Newscast, I've built it, I've kept it going, but I don't want to be known as like the one-trick pony, Jack Kendall of DSNY. I feel like I could do so much more, whether that is like I've tried doing with the Disney Universe social media platform and trying to improve the way that Disney interacts with the fan base, or which is benefiting all of my viewers, that would be benefiting the viewers, or whether it's in technology or something like that. I mean, I've got a lot of things I'd like to do, but it's about funding really and finding the time to do it, and DSNY Newscast is all consuming at the moment with my time, so growth is very difficult on YouTube to build it the correct way. But yeah, no, it's interesting from that standpoint. But
no, that makes a lot of sense. You're restless. You're curious about a lot of things and interested in a lot of things. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's great that you want to continue to do it.
It's not going to be going anywhere anytime soon, I'll tell you that. It's not going away anytime soon. When I say 2023, that's a good 4 years off. So, we're some time away from that. And I'm only 27, almost 28. So, we're 2 or 3... I mean, I'll be 30 when the 50th anniversary rolls around. That's 2 years away from now. 2 years is a long time. I mean, look what we did in 2 years on DSNY Newscast already, since 2017. I'll reassess it for 4-year mark, and then I'll assess how much longer I want to keep doing YouTube, if YouTube is the same platform that it currently is, or whether it's grown to something else, or it's very difficult I'd say very difficult to ask a YouTuber what they want to do in the future, because the platform's always changing. It's so fluid, and how the algorithm handles the videos. It's difficult.
Yeah. A lot of variables to handle, a lot to you can't predict in the future with social media and the state of your life and everything.
Well, just look at TikTok versus Instagram or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, TikTok's now risen, Snapchat's kind of like fallen a slight bit, and it's just like, I can't do my videos on TikTok. Like, I can't. Maybe I can. Maybe I'll floss whilst doing DSNY Newscast. But I don't think it would really work, to be honest.
No, YouTube seems like the place still that if you want to do long form content, you can. But if you want to make short form content that you have been doing on Instagram, then it also makes sense to just put that same thing on TikTok. But because, again, I agree that I don't even know if you can. I think there's a time limit. So you can't do
it's like Vine.
You don't have the same type of length of freedom to fully explore topics that we're able to do right now on YouTube. So then when people say make content for TikTok, I'm like, I don't know what I would bring over there. So
No, and it's also like, you post a video, you spend all day working on a video, editing. You write your script the day before, you record, you edit, you post, and then you're like, oh, I've got to go ahead and post on Instagram to notify everyone I've got a video out, and on Twitter and on Facebook, and then God knows, TikTok and Snapchat, and I'm an old man, and well, no, I'm not an old man, but I find it more and more, these new social media platforms, I'm finding it more and more difficult to understand the return on investment in terms of what is it actually doing differently to what we've already got. It just feels like, to me, that more and more of these social media platforms are just splintering off a small part of a bigger social media platform, and being like, oh, we're now you could post like tiny little looping videos to Instagram. Well, let's post tiny little looping videos to TikTok instead, and it's just like, I don't know. It's a very niche market, and we're becoming more and more niche with social media. And I feel like there should be some sort of like service or system which would, hey, this is my latest video. Download my thumbnail, upload it to all platforms, customize messages. Yeah, I know you got IFTTT for that kind of thing, or you've got Buffer, but I just feel like there's just so much to do in terms of like trying to streamline the process for creators as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I find especially if I don't consume content on a social media platform, it's difficult to create content for the social media platform. So like I've been watching YouTube since 2007. And so it's been a long journey to be able to understand how to make it and, what I'd want to see out of my channel. And so it just seems like very difficult to attempt to try to pivot and create something for something else. Like right now I'm trying to focus on Instagram and figure that out because I think that's something that's
difficult,
powerful. Mm-hmm.
It is. Like, I've learned with Instagram, the hashtags matter a lot. I feel like some of it's transferable, like asking a question and tagging is a big deal. And so making sure that your content is, number one, informative or viral worthy. So therefore people are like, oh, I've got to tag my friend in it, so therefore they see this important bit of content. But I just, it's a difficult one. Like I've been trying to do these like short looping videos, which are just like information videos, like news videos. But you've got IGTV, and like I would post my content more to IGTV as well. But there's no, I can't do that because unless there's a return on, I can't lose the viewers from YouTube to go to IGTV where there's no monetary reward for doing so. That's what I mean, because at the end of the day, if you can't make money off the video, then you can't fund the amount of passion and the amount of work that you put into it.
Yeah.
Much like I said before, you have to go get a job, and you can't produce the videos as often, and the channel slowly dies because of it. So I can't see IGTV work. I can't see myself posting to IGTV until they monetize it in some way.
Well, and the other thing about...
I can't see a lot of YouTubers doing that.
No, yeah, that's true. And the other disadvantage with IGTV and a lot of the other social medias is that there is no search function. There's no discoverability.
Oh, yeah.
The longevity of content is typically underneath 24 or 48 hours. That's all you have for this content that you pour time into, which is very difficult to wrap my head around when I've been existing in the YouTube world where things exist forever.
Well, you've got evergreen videos like you've got, where I don't really have evergreen content, so it wouldn't really affect me as much, but for you it definitely would, because, and a lot of YouTubers would, because the evergreen content is what is a big bulk of, your main views. And I just find that, people say to me, well, your content is very immediate, and 48 hours is my window to really, like, maybe 48 hours to 4 days. Within that kind of window is kind of like my news content window, but it's fleeting in many ways, news is, so it's difficult. But even then, is there any benefit to putting it on IGTV or any of these things if I'm just losing viewers on YouTube when IGTV doesn't have an Apple TV app or an Roku or any other app for the TVs where a lot of people watch my content, or Instagram doesn't even have an iPad app, so it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. But
it is. Yeah. It's a tumultuous world in the social media escape, but we do the best we can trying to, spread positivity, connect to viewers, share our message and share the best content we can make. Jack, I want you to tell the listeners what you feel is the number one piece of advice that you would help them follow their dreams.
Now, there's always the cliche, never give up. But it's more so than that. It's to follow your dreams, you've got to have persistence and determination. And that's different to not giving up, because people are like, oh, I'm never going to give up. Well, a lot of people say that and end up giving up. And it's being able to take that hit on the chin, that knockout punch, and, that failure, and being like, you know what, this isn't the end of everything. Being able to step back from everything and just being able to see the big picture, and being able to look at it through mature eyes and thinking to yourself, no, yes, I know it's a big deal that this hasn't worked out the way I wanted it to. But this isn't the thing that is going to define me. There's a lot more left in my life, and no matter how old you are, whether you're 20 or whether you're 60, age is not a defining factor for you to follow your dreams, because you're never too old or too young to make an impact. An impact is made when people have such a good idea that they can't contain it. And if you've got an idea that you can't contain enthusiasm and passion for, then let it spill over to the world. If it's not damaging or hurting anybody, let it improve this world. It comes back to that idea from the Tomorrowland movie of 2015. Feed the right wolf, and great things will happen from it. But just don't. You've got to be persistent. You've got to be determined. You've got to be logical. And I just wish that this world had more logic in it, because there's so many people who chase a pattern or a trend or something like that. And I just wish people more original and logical, and were more along the lines of trying to push positivity into the world instead of negativity. And let's all just go to ourselves, hey guys, yes, we can make tomorrow even better. Tomorrow isn't set in stone. We have the power within our grasp right now, with the technology and the technological advances, to make anything possible. We live in the most enlightened time that any generation probably has, in terms of instant communication and the power at our fingertips. And it's just, don't squander that opportunity. So, without being too cliche, there's a great big beautiful tomorrow. And just go chase it, basically.
I love that. It's practical optimism and hard work is.
I think Walt Disney used to call it. He used to call it optimal behaviorism, which is where you perform, you behave to the optimal of what you possibly could that day. So you approach the day in the best possible way, and you wake up every day thinking, you know what, today could be the day I have an impact in anybody's life, but today is the day I could have an impact. So, it's never that's the easiest way to change your life. I mean, it comes back to the whole Steve Jobs thing, which had a big impact on me. And he said, you're told that the world is a box. You're told that what you have in this world is these four walls and a roof above your head, and don't bump into the walls too much, and that's where your place is in life, and stay where you are. And then you look around and you see the lamp, or you poke life in one area. You poke life and you see, something else pops out the other side, and you realise that you have an impact, and you see that lamp to the side of you. And you think to yourself, well, that has been created by someone who's no more intelligent or no better than me. Maybe not in that field, but within that aspect, if you applied yourself, yes, you could do that. And you have an impact on this world. And so when you start looking at the world that way, the world changes. It's a magnitudal shift that I had when I discover that piece of wisdom by Steve Jobs. Yeah,
I think it's great advice. I think if it's something that you are able to be untethered with, and it's something that you love, I think you should be able to pursue it. And I think your story was a great showcase of that you continued to push forward through all of the adversity and continue to pivot and work hard towards what you were going for, and you were able to absolutely make an impact in the Disney community and in people's lives. And I think that's awesome. It's been a pleasure to talk to you, Jack. Thank you so much for coming onto the podcast in one of the first few episodes. To all of you who are listening, if you haven't seen Jack's work before, you can find links to everywhere he is on the internet in the description. And if you enjoyed this discussion, let me know by rating the podcast and subscribing. Jack, do you have any last words that you want to say?
No, it's just been an absolute delight talking to you, Isaac, and hopefully not boring the listeners with my story. And, hopefully there's been some, words of encouragement in there for people listening, and hopefully it's been some sort of use for good and positivity there.
I definitely think your story is valuable, and I think it's a testament that you can still break through in YouTube in these later years of it going on. It's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been so fun. I've loved hearing more about your story because I know I've heard some bits of it before, but I love being able to get the streamline of how it all came to be. Finally, to all you fun people who are out in the world, thanks for listening and have a magical day.